All right, week 5 college football breakdown here. A lot of speculation around this game. It's why I waited to record this breakdown here until Friday. Obviously, the early reports on this Clemson NC State weather report is that there were going to be 25-mile-per-hour winds. And as such, we saw the total come steaming down to as low as 40. Well, winds are going to be relatively calm throughout this game now that the hurricane has passed through. So as such, we've seen this total come all the way back up to 45, and Clemson still laying 7 at home here. I played the first half under in this game. I understand why there was some buyback on the over once the weather situation got resolved. But, I mean, I think weather is a consideration. We saw these two teams play last year in Raleigh, an ugly game. And don't let the final score fool you. This was 14-14 after regulation. I think we're going to get a very similar type of game here. Obviously, we saw Clemson really break out last week offensively against Wake Forest. Good for Clemson, good for DJ Uiagalelei. I think that has a lot more to say about Wake Forest's defense and the lack of resistance they provide. This NC State defense is legit. I think their defense is better than their offense. I think they got a top 15 defense in the country. We saw them stymie this Clemson offense a year ago, and I think they're even better and experienced coming into this matchup. The one thing that they're going to be able to do, in my opinion, is stop the run. With Peyton Wilson at linebacker, they've just got a really good front seven. They're physical. I know Clemson's offensive line has gotten a lot better than probably where it was this time last year, but this is a really tough matchup. This NC State defense can really stop the run. Don't laugh, but look at what East Carolina's running backs do in the American Athletic Conference, and then look at how little success they had running the ball against NC State. Go look at how NC State totally dominated Texas Tech up front. I think they're going to be able to provide quite a bit of resistance in the run game. And then, I'm not sold on DJ Uiagalelei. He took advantage of an easy matchup last week, as I was expecting him to. Go watch last week's breakdown, though. I said, regardless of how he plays against Wake Forest, I don't see him having success against NC State. I like this secondary. They've been reliable. I think this defense is the best unit on this NC State team. The offense for NC State's been concerning this year. Devin Leary has not looked like he looked a year ago. And even a year ago, he threw 35 touchdowns to just 5 interceptions, and that's obviously a very good mark. But he was at just 8 yards per attempt. I actually don't think he's the level of threat as a downfield thrower that, a guy like Sam Hartman was last week. Yes, Clemson has got to shore things up in their secondary, but I think that's a well enough coached team to where they're not going to get beat deep the same way they got beat deep last week, 2 weeks in a row. And I just don't think Devin Leary has proven this year that he's that level of downfield thrower. Numbers kind of speak for themselves. Much like Wake Forest last week, the issue with this NC State offense for me, I just don't feel confident about what they're going to be able to establish in the run game. Really, these past few years since they've hired Tim Beck, and you could maybe argue since Dave Doran has been there, in their tougher matchups, they have just not been able to establish any sort of run game. We know what Clemson has in their front seven. Say what you want about their secondary. That's one of the best front sevens in college football. Brian Breezy is back. Saw the impact he made last week. One of my rules, if you've watched the channel for any sort of time, I don't like backing unbalanced offenses. So if NC State's not able to establish the run, and the only way they can win is through the air, that's just not a repeatable way to succeed in this sport. You got to have balance. You got to keep defenses off balance. And I don't think NC State's going to be able to do that. So with all that said, I'm going to play the first half under here. Ugly game last year. I think it's going to be another ugly game here this year. I think NC State's defense is going to keep them in this game. Why? I got this number at 22 in the first half. Why, you might ask, why not just play the full game under? Because that has bit me a few times this year. Well, like I said, this game went to overtime last year, and just with some of these games that you feel like are going to come down to the wire with 2-minute drills at the end, I wouldn't want that to be the reason why we lose this bet. I don't really see a situation where the first half under wouldn't come through if the full game under did, but I can see a situation where this stays lower scoring early, and at this pretty low number, some shenanigans kind of get us late. So I don't want to worry about that. It's going to be a good game to watch. I'm going to isolate the first half under. I will be rooting for NC State in this game. I played them to win the ACC. I sprinkled on them to win the ACC preseason. This is obviously the deciding factor for that. I would lean towards them getting the points here, and I wouldn't mind a sprinkle on the money line. But like I said, I've already got a financial investment on that side of things. I think this is going to be a sloppy game, especially early. First half under 22 is a full 1-unit play for me. Before we get out of here, guys, I know you've been staring at the shirt the whole time. If you're wondering how you can look as cool and sexy as me, Let me tell you, proud90.com, unique but very comfortable polos as well. They got t-shirts, hoodies, quarter zips, recently added a ladies line. Proud 90's got all your golf apparel needs. Browse their selection. If you see anything you like at checkout, use code Fordham. It's going to get you 15% off your entire order. Check the description for more information.